Hello everybody and welcome to the second lesson of the Roll-a-Ball tutorial for Blender game engine. And this time it should be actually fun because we will do the physics, scripting, and we finally make our player movable and controllable via the keyboard. Well, first of all we need to set the physics, and one thing before we start, I actually noticed one mistake that I made in previous lesson, but it's not something big, something huge. We can fix it right now. You can see the scale of the player is 0.5, and as I said several times, you always want scale on 1, so I will apply this scale. Ctrl A, scale, and the mistake is fixed. And now go to select ground. We don't need the textures shading here, and in ground the settings for physics is actually set up pretty well. It's a static object, it's exactly what we need. And the player object, we don't want static, we want that rigid body, because it will be the ball that will encounter some collisions, it will be controllable, movable, affected by forces and gravity and other stuff. So it's rigid body, but you see the radius is kind of off, and we know what the radius is 0.5, so now it's exactly the radius of our sphere. And changed collision box, or add the collision bounds. You always want the bounds to be as simple object as possible. The simplest one is box, of course, but we don't have box, we have sphere, so just change it to sphere and you pretty much are done. You don't have to change anything else. If we try it, just move it along the z-axis above the ground, start the game, and it falls down, stops on the ground, and it's work awesomely great. Now we want finally the script that will move our player around, so we will add it, but where should be the script be? And we should go to logic editor, and scripts for objects or for anything are always on some game object. It can be somewhere in ether, in void. It has to be in object, in his property, particularly in his controller. So object like this player can have controller, and the controller can be Python, and here you can put your script. And we will not use just one script for just one thing. We will use like player script, and it will be for moving, it will be for collecting, for many things. So we will for now just want to extract somehow from our script just one particular function, just one magic black box that will do stuff, that will move the player, nothing else. So we will execution method set to module, and find the module from our script. So now I just have to guess what it will be named, but then I have to stick with it. So the name of the script could be something like player script, why not, and that. And now I will not write .py as the postfix of files. Now I will write the name of our magic black box function, and it will be player movement with capital M. could be like it. So I want to have a player script.py, and with this player script I want the function player movement, and it will does everything for me. I don't have to concern how it works. It doesn't matter. I just want it works. But when this controller will start, we have to define it as well with sensor. Sensor is something that will trigger our controller, and I want it to be triggered always. I want it to be always, and not only always because this is just the first frame. This is just true and it's done. And I want the true value every single logic step, not necessarily every single frame, so be aware of it. This is not running every single frame, this is running every single logic steps. And if you go to world settings in physics, you can actually see that physics steps can be even 5 in one frame, so the logic steps can be higher than the frame rate. And connect it. So from now on, our function in our script will run every single frame. Well, but now we don't have no script, not the function, so we have to create one. I just like to put pick one window with shift left mouse. It will make new window, but it's not new Blender instance, it's still same Blender but only new window, where I can do whatever and set it to text editor. So now I have kind of external text editor for my Python scripts. And for better visualization, I will show numbers and highlighting and make new script. And we already know how the script should be named, right? It should be player script. So let's write it .py, and in this script I want to have the function, the player movement, somewhere defined. First of all, don't worry about syntax highlighting. I have some different colors, but it really is irrelevant. For example, if I write something and import, you can see that something is just some word, it's in black, and import is blue because it's something that is already in Python or in Blender or somewhere is already defined like something that I can use but can't really change. And you probably have different color. This can be red, green, whatever. Don't be concerned about it. The necessary thing is that it's different color. It isn't black. Other things isn't important. It really doesn't matter what color it is. Just important thing is it's different. And we want our function, so we will define it. Define our own magic black box. So go and def for definition of the function. Then it want the name of the function. I will just copy it, Ctrl C, player movement, and Ctrl V. And each function has to have some attributes, but it can be empty, but it has to be here, the braces, that is function, and semicolon. I am not sure English word for this, but you probably know what it is. Enter, and now here I can write my whole function. Whatever I want to happen will be here. This is my magic black box that will work every time, and it will work fluently, flawlessly. of course. So I want to move my player. So what I need for the movement of my player, I need the object, because it's not just that I write script move player, but the Python don't know what is player. It's object, it's property, it's value, variable, what it is. So I need to tell it it's this object, and I can find it different ways, for example by name. But if I want to find it by name, I would have to find a scene, and scene find all objects and iterate through all objects and find which object has this name, and then I will find my player. But every time I have some script, the script is on controller every time, and this controller is on my object. I already know this is my object, and it will be this every time. So I just need to extract my object from the controller. But how I get the controller and how I extract the object from it? Well, each time you program something, go to Google, go to internet and find Blender API. I will put link in the description, of course. And here I want controller, and I can see types get current controller. It could do what I want. It get Python controller associated with this Python script. It's exactly what I want, so I can just copy this, Control C, Control V. So this is my controller, and always if I want to work with something, I have to name it. I will name it cont equals. So from now on, cont is my controller, the current one, the one that I am running scripts from, this one. And this controller is on my object. Can I extract the object from it? Again, what it will return? The Python controller. So I click on it, what it is, class, Python controller. And it has some properties, mode, activate, deactivate, whatever, but it has owner property, the object the controller is attached to. Exactly, perfect, this is what we want. So just go back to our text editor and extract from our controller, because from now on cont is our controller, that owner, this is our object, and again name it somehow, and I will name it player. Okay, now I have my object. It wasn't really that hard, and it could be even easier, because if you are using this module option, the controller not only find this function in the script and run this function, but it provides provide it with itself. So here as attribute, this function will get the controller. I don't need to find it. So I name it right here. I use the same name, cont, and it should work like this. It's kind of workaround. The previous version would work as well. It's the same thing. Just now I have my player, okay, and I want to do something with player. I want to move it with some speed, of course, and you probably like the function in Unity where you have some number in editor that you can slide and change and rewrite, and it will rewrite the value in the engine, and you don't have to go always in the text editor, find the value here and change it here. So if I will write just speed equals find point 0, I would try it will work somehow, and I would say, oh, I want slightly less speed, so I would have to go here, find the speed, rewrite it, save it and try again. I don't want this. I want some property on the player, on the object, that I will have access here in editor. So right here I will add some property, and this property will be set to something like speed. It will be float, and it could be 5. So I already have this speed set up in the object. I am still in the player object, and I set up speed here. So I don't have to set the new speed. I already have it. So my player has already speed. Okay, and what other things I need? I need some vector, because I need the direction of the movement. And before I do everything, you can see I am using functions like owner or things that aren't in Blender, that aren't in Python, that are written in a BGE model, and I need this model to work, so I will import him. Every time you write script for Blender Game Engine, import BGE. Now you are clear, you can use all the functions in the owner. As you can see, even here, every time it sets BGE on the beginning. So if I import the BGE, I can use all these functions. Well, and I will name somehow this vector I need, like movement vec, for example, and what it would be equal to, and it will be generated by the keyboard. So if I press W, A, S, D, arrow keys, it will generate for me the direction. And if you try to find something like this inside the API of Blender, you will find out that it doesn't exist, such a function. But we can write our own. Why not? We can write anything. We are gods in programming. So just get axis from input, and this function will give me my vector, but not right now. This function don't exist. I just make it up. I just bring up few letters and put braces after them, so I make function, but the function doesn't exist. The movement vector don't exist right now. It's nothing. Keep it in mind that we just used function that we need to write after we write the movement. So we would need another magic black box, but this time this magic black box will take some case from keyboard and return to us the direction. And we will pretend that we have this function for now. So we have our vector, and we will multiply this vector then with speed, with player speed. So the speed is for us defined in game property, and the property is on the player object. Player object is here. We define it as owner of our controller, so it will be on player. And accessing property of the object is just put these braces and write here the name of the property, nothing else, no type, no value, nothing, just name, and name is speed. So this will go to the object player, go, do you have any property? Yes, you have. Does it property is name speed? Yes, it is. So take the number or value of this property, whatever it is, and times it by the movement. And the movement I will want from this function to get me unit vector, so it will be 1 or -1 or whatever. So I will multiply it with speed, so the vector will be, the magnitude of the vector will be speed. if you understand me. But before I will do it, I actually want to check if the vector is actually something, if it's not 0. Because if it's 0, I don't need to do anything. I am happy staying right here, do whatever you want, but only if, this is why I will use if, the movement vector will be bigger than 0. But this will not exactly work, because movement vector is always bigger than 0, because it's vector, it's not number, it's just thing. Probably it can't even compare it. It would probably give us a lot of errors. We want the magnitude of this vector, and magnitude, if we go here again, we want magnitude of the vector. We can say Matutils vector magnitude. So we have function for it. We can find the magnitude of the vector. Okay, so this is vector. I will just write magnitude, and now it's number, it's size of the vector, it's length of the vector, but the magnitude is not in BGE. As you can see, there is no BGE in the beginning, there is Matutils in the beginning, so we need to import the Matutils as well. It's nothing hard, just Matutils, and it's imported. Consider it done. And we can measure our vector, compare it to 0. If it's bigger, we want to multiply it with speed, so we have our finished vector, and we use this vector to actually move our object. And how we will move it? There is several ways. Easiest is probably just change the location. It's logic one, right? But if you have rigid bodies, soft bodies, dynamic objects, any kind of dynamic thing in physics simulation, you don't want to directly change the place. It's wrong thing to do. You can, of course, but it's wrong to physics calculation. You always want to only apply forces to it and move it with forces. But it's kind of hard to calculate the friction and mass and what force in which direction I need to apply to move some speed. So Blender has nice function for that you can apply the velocity, and you can write I want some velocity in some direction, and Blender will count in background somewhere the force, necessary force for you. So it will works nice for the physics calculation, because it will apply only forces, but you have full control on the velocity, not around the force. So I will want to apply it to player, and I won't apply the velocity, but as anything, go to API, how we apply the velocity in BGE, velocity, and what we have here, get angular, not we want linear, because we want, but not, we don't to get velocity, we want set, not angular, set linear velocity to game object. It's exactly what we need. Set the game object's linear velocity. Perfect. This is what we need. So I just copy this. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And what it wants from us. This is another magic black box that is written by somebody else in Blender development team, maybe. And this magic box wants from us the vector for velocity, it's set here, 3D vector, and local true or false for global or local velocity. Well, we already have our vector, movement vector, and we want this be false to always work with global velocity, and it's done. This function will move our player with this vector, but if you remember, and you should, we don't have this getAxis input function. We don't have our vector. We want to have somehow take the vector from the input, from the keyboard. So this function is done. We can go from it away and start defining another function. We can do it right here, why not? So define what we want to define. GetAxis input. Okay, we will define it right here. And what it will do, it will take some events from keyboard and transfer it to vector. So we will need the event from keyboard, of course. So for example, k event, and it would equal what it would equal, and still same thing over and over. BGE event case keyboard active keyboard events. Okay, BGE types active events, whatever we want in logic. Actually, where it is, BGE, we want keyboard as it is, not only case, not the events itself. So we want keyboard sensor events. It could be this or this. What it should be, I will just copy it from my old script. As you can see, it's not always such clear what it should do. Bigton keyboard event. Yes, it's actually kind of what I want. BGE logic keyboard dot events. I don't know why I can't find it like right now, but this is what are all events or on the keyboard. And then we want some status or state of the event, because each key have different status or different positions. It can be activate just now in this frame, it can be just activate, just it's hold it down, it can be just released in this frame, and it could be just released, like nothing is happening. And we need just the hold down value. So for example, hold, it will be named, and it's BGE what it is, logic, of course, and KX input and active. You can find it KX input active, just activated, just released, none. So it's here as well. Okay, let's move on. We are out of time again, as always. Next thing, we have our keyboard. We know what we want from our case, and we will change some vector, of course, again, because we want to return this vector, and we will name it again somehow. Input vector could be, and it will be just vector. It's, I believe, in Matutales. Matutales vector. Oh my god, why this doesn't work when you need it? Here is how to define new vector. Right here, Matutales vector. Ctrl C and define it. Matutales vector, and for start we want just 0. So this is our vector, and we will change this vector according to what case are put it down. So we will start to write. If k event, so if some event is happening on the keyboard, and what is this event, and if it's equal hold. So if the event is just active, or it's active right now, is hold it down. And what event, I believe this was here, event game case, yes, it's here. There are all keys on the keyboard. So for example, if I want W, so BGE events WK, Ctrl C. So if K event is W, is BGE events WK, is hold it down, I want to do something, and particularly I want to change the vector, so the input vector, and I want to change the second value, which is actually under number 1, because this is number 0, this is 1, and this is 2. It's not 1 2 3, it's 0 1 2. So I want to change y value. So input vector 1 will equal to 1 from now on, 0.0 to be exact, or it can be just 1. And I want, if I want more case for this event to happen, I can just put here or, and copy this k event and change. It could be WK, or it could be up arrow. Where it is? Here, up arrow K. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So if I press down W key or up arrow key, it will change the Y value to 1. Then I go to else if. In Python it's written like elif. So if I didn't press W key or up arrow key, I will check if I press some other keys. So S key or down arrow key, and if I press them, the input value, input vector will be -1 in this case. And I will copy all this, because this is the vertical axis, and do the same thing for horizontal axis. So it could be A or D, or A is left and D is right. So if I press A or if I press left arrow key, I will change input vector 0, because x-axis, to 1, or not to 1, to the left will be -1, and to the right will be my x-axis to +1. And I have, after this statement, I have my input vector changed. So if I press W and A, for example, it will change the vector to -1, 1, 0, because I never want to move in the z-axis. So I want from this function to return this vector. So return just like this, and input vector, and it's all. This function doesn't think anything. This will just look to keyboard, look through the events, what's happening, change the vector, and put back the vector that I need. And in my main function, or player movement function, I will take this vector, and if it's more than 0, I will multiply it with player speed and set the player linear velocity to this vector in global axis. I know it's confusing maybe right now. Let's watch it several times or stop it somewhere, try to write it down, but this should work, I believe. So Ctrl S, and for debugging you would need the terminal window. So this, it's scary, I know, but you will see all these errors here or warnings. If you are on Linux, you actually have to run the Blender from this terminal so you can see it. If you are on Windows, you can go to Window, and here will be toggle system console, I believe. And if you are on Mac, you probably know how to do it. So I will put it away and start the game, and a lot of errors are appearing, and errors are friends, because we need to analyze them and find what is wrong. You can see it's, wow, it's scary, but if you look closer you will see that these lines are still repeating. It's still the same error, it's just one error. And what the error is, it should be written here. So in line 7 in my function player movement, it actually calls for the get axis input. It's what we write. And in line 15 is error that model object has no attribute kx input active. So what's happening in our line 15? Hold is BGE logic kx input active. I probably has typo here. Yes, I have typo, additive. Oh. It's BGE logic kx input active. So you can see errors are actually good for you, because you can debug pretty good your script. It will tell you what's wrong, in what line, where it stopped, why it can go on. So let's try it again, and I can move to left and top, but I can't move to bottom. Is there any error for me? Of course. And you can see another typo. In line 7 in player movement I am calling the get axis input, and in line 21 name input vector is not defined, of course, because I forgot the I. So line 21, another debugging. Where is my script? Here in line 21 I forget the I, and same here. Okay, let's try it again. W, D, A, S. Everything works. Arrow keys, everything works. What about my errors? Blender game started, Blender game finished, and no errors was written. So it's pretty much all. I will do, this is so long, I hoped it will be under half hour, but sorry for it, it will be under 45 minutes. And I want also make the movement smooth, so you will have just some acceleration and slowing down with linear interpolation, but it would have to be as separate, like bonus video. So there will be lesson 2.1, 2.5. So I thank you very much for watching this. I hope you managed to go through this. It's not that hard script. You need some vector math already known. You need some basics of programming, how to write if and why I indented here. If you don't know why I indented here, don't go to game development right now. Go to some place where you can find tutorials and lessons for Python itself. And this should be just using the API, and the main thing that you should understand in this lesson is not exactly how to set linear velocity, but how to find anything in Blender API, because there is actually everything, but you have to just scroll. For example, I didn't find logic keyboard. Yes, it is exists, so I can find it here. The current keyboard wrapped in the object. Why not? This is what we needed, and I couldn't find it. So everything is here, and this should be your best friend, and you should look here very often. And in the next lesson we will make some prefabs, collectibles, counting score, and many awesome things. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you find it useful, and till the next time, bye.